students and the fellows in attendance. A very good morning to all and welcome to all to today's class. The topic of the class is Bradyarrythmia, and I am Dr. Mustafizur Rahman, Assistant Professor of Electrophysiology at NICVD. We're going to take the opportunity. Possibly all of us, we are mentally not sound and emotionally we are not there in the session. Though we have to take the classes in this way because life is not stand for anything. So let us start. It is a bradyarrhythmia. It is a very common to all since the MBBS level. So what I will say later on, some will be for new for you, and some will be old and well known to you. So it's a one type of recap for you also, and it is not a pleasure for us to take the classes in such a way, but the circumstances and situation is so we have to take in this way. So let us start. Okay. There is the bradyarrhythmia. There is the National Institutes of the Health defines the bradycardia as a heart rate less than 60 beats per minute, which is also known to everybody, known to you. And in adults, other than the well-trained athletes, in athletes, they a little bit less. However, the many population studies frequently use a lower cutoff value of 50 beats per minute. So let us see some basic concepts. All of it is a recap actually. So it is the conductive system of the heart. It is the SA node, and these are the internodal pathways through the atria. One is the AV node and the His bundle, and one is the left bundle and right bundle and the Purkinje forces. This is the basic, and it is common to all. And these are the ECG findings through the conductive system. That is the P wave, which is produced by the atrial depolarization, and the QRS complex produced by the ventricular depolarization. T wave is due to the ventricular depolarization. And these are the intervals. That is the PR interval and the PR segment, QRS, QT, and ST segments. These are the segments. And the new thing is that how the impulse is passing after origin in the SA node, it's passing to the ventricle from the atria. It is very vital to understand the bradyarrhythmia. So it is in a nutshell, you can see that here before the P wave is started, here is the sinus node is fired, and the impulse is originate and traverses to the atria, and atria to this part of the P wave is the impulse is passing from the atria to the node, that is AV node, and in this part then it is going to the passes through the node. After going to the node, this part is from the node to the His, that is the His bundle. So this is the completion of the AV node. Then this part of PR interval, the His bundle, it is going to the bundles, and there is Purkinje occurs. After that, the QRS occur and the ventricular depolarization occur. So this is the AV conduction. It is very much important to understand the bradyarrhythmia. And it is also known to you that the SNOD has the capacity to originate the impulse at the rate of 60 to 100 beats per minute, and the AV junction the rate of 40 to 60, and from ventricle it originates at the rate of 40 beats per minute. By this way, we can calculate the rate, and we can determine from where the impulse is originated. So the mechanism of bradyarrhythmia is two things absolutely. That is one is the disorder of impulse formation or generation, and another one is the disorder of impulse conduction. So problem is within the origin from the SA node or from the conduction through the internodal or the bundle of His or bundles. So this is the two mode of mechanism. And let us see some common causes of the bradyarrhythmias. A lot of causes, but some is very important for us. There's some intrinsic causes, some extrinsic causes. Intrinsic causes, I'm moving with intrinsic causes. Idiopathic aging degeneration is the commonest, and next one is ischemic hernia.
স্যার নয়েজ হচ্ছে, সম্ভবত বাতাসের জন্য নয়েজ হচ্ছে, অনেক কিছু বোঝা যাচ্ছে না।
Okay, fine. Is it okay now? এখন শোনা যাচ্ছে ক্লিয়ার?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, এখন নয়েজটা চলে গিয়েছে।
চলে গেছে। এর আগে কি কিছুই বোঝা যায়নি? আমি কি আবার ব্যাক করব?
হ্যাঁ, বোঝা গিয়েছে স্যার, কিন্তু
সাউন্ড ছিল না, নয়েজ ছিল। ওকে ফাইন।
একটু ব্যাক করলে ভালো হয়।
ব্যাক করব?
আগের স্লাইডে ব্যাক করলে স্যার ভালো হয়।
ওকে ফাইন। সো এর আগে these are the basic concepts of the conductive system of the heart. It is the SA node, and the AV node, the internodal pathway that traverses through the atria, and then his bundle, and both the left and right bundles and Purkinje fiber. This is the basic of the conductive system, and all of you know that how the P wave and QRST is originated, and these are the P waves and also the segments and intervals. So it is very much important to know all the intervals and the normal values. And another thing is AV conduction, which is very important for understanding the bradyarrhythmia. Is how the impulse originate from the SA node and how it go to the AV node and to the rest of the part of the conductive system. So before the P wave, here the SA node is fired and the P wave is started. Actually, depolarization is started, and the impulse passes through the atria to the node, as the atria to the AV node, and then it is traverses to the node, and then to the node to his. This part of the P wave is formed by the node to his, and the rest of the PR interval is the his to his, then bundle, then Purkinje. So later on, after going to the Purkinje, the depolarization occur and the QRS is produced. And the next time I told that the impulse originating from the different part of the conductive system, that is the SA node can originate at the rate of 60 to 100 beats per minute, and AV node can generate impulse at the 40 to 60, and ventricle at the rate of less than 40 beats per minute. Okay. The mechanism of bradyarrhythmia is two things, and one is the impulse formation or generation, and another one is the impulse conduction. So the next one is the common causes, some common causes of the bradyarrhythmia. That is some intrinsic causes, some extrinsic causes. This mechanism is very important to understand the bradyarrhythmia. Impulse cannot generate, so this is a different mechanism. An impulse cannot conduct, this is a different mechanism. So the common causes, intrinsic causes, the most common cause is the idiopathic or aging or degenerative process, and next one is ischemic heart disease, some infective disease like sarcoidosis, amyloidosis, hemochromatosis. These are also common for the bradyarrhythmias, and some inflammatory disease, collagen vascular disease, SLE, and some congenital disease, and some infective disease, myocarditis, endocarditis, Chagas disease, and some iatrogenics after surgical trauma, and the valve replacement is very common to produce the bradyarrhythmia. And some extrinsic causes are the physiological, that is the trainee sports, the athletes, and some vagal reflexes such as vasovagal situational syncopes, that is the micturition, cough syncope, micturition syncope, and the carpet sinus hypersensitivity. And some the drugs also causing the cardiac drugs, common drugs are the beta blockers and rate limiting calcium channel blockers, some drug abuse, and also the electrolyte imbalances like hypokalemia or hyperkalemia, some hypothyroidism, anorexia nervosa, and some neurological disease, raised intracranial pressure and CNS tumor. It is common understanding. And so how to approach to ECG of bradycardia, how we will go to diagnose the bradyarrhythmia by an ECG, to an ECG. So first of all, we have to see the QRS rate and the rhythm, and the morphology, and also the axis. These are the initial one, and then we'll go for the P wave. What is the rate of the P wave morphology, P wave regularity, and relationship between the QRS. It is very important that the P wave and QRS, that is the PR interval. Later on, you will see that the PR interval can diagnose a lot of diagnosis. And the before, and next one is before and after. So the occurrence, before the occurrence and after the occurrence, what is the incidence, what is the rhythm, and what is the wave, whether it is P wave or where it is ends with the QRS complex. What is the scenario of the PR interval before the drop bit or any occurrence, or after the occurrence. So before and after is a very important findings to diagnose the bradyarrhythmia. And you have to look for the baseline ECG also. This is a very important initially. It's a clue to diagnose the diagnosis. And the underlying conditions, we have to look for the underlying conditions that they already the cause I have told earlier. Anything can understand that what is the reason behind it, and if possible the extra tests, we will go for the next extra tests to diagnose. So the bradyarrhythmia is a abnormal, unstable, slow heart rate with the symptoms, that is the producing the SA node, and also SA node, there is the pacemaker cell, and also the conduction through the SA node, and the AV nodal disease, and also some conduction abnormalities in the bundle branch. Let us start with the sinus node dysfunction. There is the sinus node dysfunction is a rate less than 50 beats per minute, and or sinus pause more than 3 seconds is a potential components of the condition definitions of the sinus node disease. So both of is necessary. Either one is also important to diagnose the sinus node dysfunction. Less than 50 beats per minute or more than 3 seconds pause. So the sinus node dysfunction are the common sinus node dysfunctions: the sinus bradycardia, ectopic atrial bradycardia, sinoatrial exit block, sinus pause, sinus node arrest, tachybrady syndrome, and chronotropic incompetence, and isorhythmic dissociation. These are the common sinus node dysfunction. Let us see one by one. Okay. So this is the sinus bradycardia. This is very easy to diagnose. It should be in sinus rhythm, and every POV is followed by QRS complex and rate less than 60 or less than 50. And it is the example of the absolute sinus bradycardia. There is no other than this POV. Every POV is followed by QRS complex and rate is little bit low. And then next one is sinoatrial block. That is the abnormal is the SA node function, either due to failure to form impulse or failure to conduct. What is the diagnosis? The mechanism I have already told you: failure to form or generate the impulse, or failure to conduct the impulse. The sinus node continues to discharge at a regular interval, but some impulses cannot exit from the sinus node. That will be the problem in the conduction. And like AV block, sinus node sinoatrial block may be first degree, second degree, third degree heart block. And among them, first and third degree heart block cannot diagnose through the ECG. Only second degree heart block, SA block, can be diagnosed from the ECG. So this is the first degree SA block, the slowing of the impulse to exit from the SA node, but it is apparently looks normal in the ECG, so nothing to diagnose it. And in the second degree AV block, this is the again divided into the two parts. That is the Wenckebach type 1 and type 2, as the AV block. And here is the progressive shortening of the PP interval, followed by a pause. This progressive shortening is a P wave, another one is P wave. These are the P wave. There is no P wave, sudden pause. And the PP interval is it is 740, next PP interval is 700. So gradually shortening of the PP interval followed by a pause. And the pause will be shorter than the last PP interval, that is the shortest PP interval, less than the twice shortest PP interval. The PP interval, that is the dropped PP interval, after the dropped PP interval, this PP interval is 1300 millisecond, and this last shortest PP interval is 700 milliseconds. So twice of the 700 is the 1400. So it should be less than that. And the SA block or exit block, that is the type 2 SA block or exit block, is a group beating, that is the group of PP intervals followed by the PP intervals all are regular in a regular interval, but there is a pause of exactly the twice of the PP interval. So these are the 720, 720 PP interval, and the pause is 1440. So it is absolutely twice of this. So the second degree type 2 SA block exit block is that type of block in which we will find that the PP interval is blocked. A P wave is not found. We will not found the P wave, but the previous PP interval is absolutely multiplication of this twice or thrice. This type of regularity will maintain, and the third degree, we will tell you the third degree next one. And the main diagnosis of the SA block is this sinus pause or sinus arrest. This is the up to second degree type 2 SA block or type 3 SA block. These are the problem of the conduction of the sinus impulse to exit from the SA node. And if SA node cannot generate the impulse, the failure to generate the impulse from the SA node, it is the sinus pause or sinus arrest. And so the PP interval, suddenly P wave is absent. The PP interval all are regular, but when the P interval again come, that will not maintain irregularities. No multiplication of any 2 or 3 or anything else. Anytime SA node can fire and it will generate the P wave. So there is no relationship between any multiplication or anything else. So the group beating, PP interval, PP will constant, and after the pause, the PP interval will not be the follow any rule. And the third degree SA block is not found in the ECG because none of the sinus impulses are conducted to the atrium. It cannot exit from the SA node, so it is a complete absence of P waves. And it may occur asystole even. It may be fatal also. But third degree SA block is indistinguishable from the sinus arrest, very similar to the ECG. And this is the example of the sinus pause, long pause. There is no relationship between the PP interval. Next one is tachybrady syndrome. That is the sinus bradycardia, ectopic atrial bradycardia, or sinus pause alternating with the periods of abnormal atrial flutter or fibrillation. There is the tachycardia may be associated with suppression of the initially tachy will occur and it will suppress the SA node automaticity, and there will be a sinus pause or variable degree of the bradycardia or anything else, ectopic atrial brady or sinus pause, and again tachy will and when again tachy will start or sinus rate will start. Initially tachy will start, then the depression of the SA node automaticity, then a pause, then again the sinus or tachy will occur. This is the example of the tachybrady syndrome. The rhythm is irregular and there is no definite P wave. Possibly it is a atrial fibrillation or multiple atrial tachycardia, and after that there is a long pause. After tachy, there is a long pause, and when it regains, it is a sinus rhythm. But some of it is the atrial ectopic. These are also atrial ectopic. These are the atrial ectopic. Multiple atrial ectopic will occur. So this is the example of the tachybrady syndrome. It is also known as the sick sinus syndrome, one of the type. That is, the sick sinus syndrome is irreversible. It is an irreversible dysfunction of the sinus node atria. It involves the much of the conductive system of the heart. Commonly affects the elderly and usually idiopathic. And since the overdrive suppression occurs, what I have told already, overdrive suppression occurs after the tachycardia, then bradycardia occurs. Next one is chronotropic incompetence. That is the independent predictor of overall mortality and cardiovascular mortality also. And it is the inability of the heart to increase its rate in relation with the increased activity or demand. And commonly it is found in the heart failure patients and also in the sinus node dysfunction patients. And it is defined as the failure to reach 80% of the expected maximum heart rate, which is age adjusted. And to determine this, we have to perform the ETT, and the patient should perform its maximally. and the maximum ETT will identify the chromatography incompetence through this formula. That is the, all of you know that the maximum heart rate minus resting heart rate divided by 220 minus H minus resting heart rate into 100. So what will be the management of the sinus node disease? The algorithm that is the published by the American Heart Association. That is the sinus, if the sinus dysfunction, if you think so, at first confirm the symptoms, rule out the reversible causes among what I have told earlier, the causes of the bradyarrhythmia, rule out the reversible causes. Then if symptom is correlate with bradycardia, is symptom correlate with bradycardia, the class 1 indication is the permanent pacemaker. Sinus node dysfunction, if confirm the symptoms and no reversible causes, symptom correlate with the bradycardia, permanent pacemaker is the class 1 indication. And if you have to give some drugs that the patient is not symptomatic, but the reversible cause is the drug, and which is absolutely necessary for the patient, you cannot omit that drug from his prescription. So that will be another class 1 indication for the permanent pacemaker for that type of patients. And if it is patient is asymptomatic and symptom is not correlated with bradycardia, it's a class 3 indication for the pacemaker for the patient. It will cause harm to the patient. So let us start the atrioventricular block. Next one is atrioventricular block. There is the partial delays or complete interruption in the cardiac conduction pathway between the atria and ventricle. So atria and ventricle, there is the AV node. This is the main gateway of the conduction system. So here is the delays or complete interruption. Here is the diagnosis. The degree of block defines the type and classification of the block. And the different type of AV block, already it is very much familiar to you. That is the first degree AV block, second degree AV block, among the second degree Mobis type 1, Mobis type 2, and the 2:1 advanced and high grade or high grade degree AV block, third degree AV block, and some vagal mediated entry AV block. So let us see one by one. সব কি শোনা যাচ্ছে? সব শোনা যাচ্ছে? সবাই কি বোঝা যাচ্ছে কথা নাকি? এখন কি করতে? The AV block is in that way. We have to diagnose first the type of AV block and site of AV block. To manage the patient of atrioventricular block, we have to diagnose in this way. What is the type of AV block and what is the site of block? By observing the ECG, it is not possible, go for the Holter. If it is not possible, go for some non-invasive tests. And if we will not diagnosis, we will go for the EP stuff. We have to diagnose the patient to treat them. So let us see the first degree AV block. This is very simple. That is the 1:1 conduction. Every P wave is followed by QRS complex. Only the PUR interval is prolonged. That is the more than 200 milliseconds. It's problem in the AV node, and it is a misnomer, absolutely, actually, because it is not a block, actually. First degree AV block is not a block. It is a delays, AV delays. So the delay in the to exit the impulse from the AV node to the his. So the prolongation of the PR interval is the only diagnostic clue for the first degree AV block. And the second degree AV block, among the Mobis type 1, Mobis type 2, all of you know that the gradual prolongation of the PR interval followed by a pause. PR interval is 190. Its PR interval is 290 milliseconds. There is a pause. So only at least 2 consecutive non-conducted P waves is necessary. It will be sinus rhythm, at least 2 consecutive non-conducted P waves, and progressive prolongation, and followed by a drop. And only another thing is only one P wave is blocked. Only one P wave is blocked. And second degree AV block is the Mobis type 2. 2 or more consecutive P waves are conducted. At least 2 or more consecutive P waves conducted, and only one single P waves is blocked. Only one single P wave. And another important thing is the PR interval will be constant. So the PR interval will be constant, and 2 or more P wave should be conducted, and only one P wave should not conduct. Only one P wave will not conduct. So that will be diagnostic clue of the AV type 2 or Mobis type 2 second degree heart block. And the PP interval is usually less than 100 beats per minute. Sinus rate is less than 100 beats per minute, and the PP interval will be constant. It is regular. That are also the diagnostic clue, and the problem is within the branches of the left bundle or right branches. Left bundle is blocked, and the intermittently block the right bundle. It is in the lower part. And Mobis type 2 can also in the his also, and that will be cause the QRS complex narrow. Usually type 2 block is usually infranodal, and QRS complex mostly wide, and but may occasionally narrow if it is from his bundle. And the next one is a high grade second degree AV block. It is another type of second degree AV block. Here the difference is the PR interval is constant. PR interval is constant, but the at least two P wave is necessary to non-conduction. At least two P wave, two or more P wave is necessary for non-conduction. So at least two or more consecutive P waves are blocked, and it is usually infranodal. It is a high grade advanced second degree heart block. And stability of the sinus node is important criteria. Again, the second degree heart block, the P wave is regular, and usually rate is less than 100, and the PR interval is constant. It is another diagnostic clue. And two P wave is necessary for non-conduction to diagnose the second degree, high grade second degree AV block. And it is usually as the 3:1 or 4:1. There is the 1, 2, 3. Among the three P wave, two is conducted, one is conducted, two is non-conducted. It is a 3:1. Among the three, one is conducted. It's a 3:1 AV block. And another one, this is a 4:1. 1, 2, 3, 4. One is conducted. Among the four, three is non-conducted. So 4:1. At least two consecutive non-conductive is necessary, and PR interval should be constant. It is another important. There is the one P wave here, one P wave is blocked, and here is two P wave is blocked. So it is a 2:1 and 3:1 AV block, high grade AV block, 2:1 and 3:1, maintaining 2:1 and 3:1 in formal. So next one is the fixed ratio 2:1 AV block. Everything is okay? শোনা যাচ্ছে এবং দেখা যাচ্ছে? Hello? 2:1 AV block, fixed rate 2:1 AV block. That is the every alternate P wave is blocked. One P wave is conducted, another P wave is blocked. So every other P wave is conducted, alternating with every other is blocked. So 2:1 block cannot be classified. It is not classified as a type 1 or type 2 because to diagnose the type 1 or type 2, we have to know the PR interval. PR interval is very important. So here only one PR interval we are getting. So to assess the PR interval, it is very difficult to diagnose the AV block only by seeing the one PR interval. So it is a 2:1 block cannot be classified as type 1 or type 2 because only single P wave is conducted. Two conducted P wave is necessary to definite the diagnosis. And the P wave is constant rate, and those P waves are conducted, that PR interval are constant. It is also a very diagnostic clue. That is, the PR intervals are constant, but every alternate P waves are non-conducted. So the diagnostic criteria of 2:1, some of the diagnostic tools, that is if the QRS wide is narrow, it is most likely the nodal or his. If it is QRS is wide, it is likely infrahisian. And another tools is the PR interval. That is, if the PR interval is long, is prolonged, it is most likely epinodal. If it is short, it is most likely intranodal. And if we give the atropine, allow the patient to exercise, it will improve the conduction. If the conduction is improved, it will avinodal disease. If we give the carotid sinus message, if it is improved, it will be the usual intranodal. And if it is retrograde conduction present, we will also assume that it is also intranodal block. And the next one is a complete or third degree heart block. Possibly it is easier than the others. P wave is regular and RR interval will be regular. P wave is more, P wave will be more, and QRS complex will be less, and there is no relationship between the P wave and QRS. Atria will contract independently, ventricle will contract independently, absolutely dissociated. So there is no relationship between P and QRS. No PR interval is regular or anything else, and rate is less. It will be narrow, the escape rhythm from where it is blocked. We will identify the escape rhythm. If the escape rhythm is narrow, it will be from the junction, it will be from the upper side, and the rate will be more. And if it is wide, we will assume that the block possibly in the distal part, and the rate will be low. So these are the complete heart block. QRS complex can be narrow or wide, originating. These are the both the fascicle if it is blocked. So the QRS will be, Purkinje will be the escape rhythm will take the action. So the QRS will be wide and rate will be low. The atrial rate must be faster than the, a lot of atrial, P, all are the atrial, on the ventricular rate will be 3. Okay, the escape rhythm I have already told, junctional rhythm 40 to 60 and ventricular rate less than 50, by which we will think that where the block is occurred. And in EP study, one slide I will show to diagnose how we will diagnose the location of the block, because it is very important to diagnose where the block is occurred. Where because you have to, if you want to diagnose the patient and treat the patient definitely, you have to diagnose occasionally. It is needed to do the EP study. By EP study, we will show that this is the surface ECG, that is the PQRST, and in electrophysiology study, one catheter we will put into the right atrium, and another one is the his origin. So in his origin, we will get the 3 deflections. One is from the atrium, one is from the his, another one is from the ventricle. And right atrial lead, we can get it the atrial impulse and the ventricular impulse. So by seeing the atria, his, and ventricular impulse, we can assess the where is the block. It is the after firing of the SA node, it is the SA node to atrium, the PA interval, impulses passing from the SA node to atrium, then atrium to his, it is the AH interval, and from the his to ventricle or Purkinje. So this is the intervals. These are the common normal intervals. If it is less or more, we will diagnose it. If it is age is long, age is prolonged, we will diagnose that is the nodal block. Atria to his, so it is the nodal block. If it is his to V, it is prolonged, HV interval is prolonged, then we will think that it is the intranodal or his bundle block. Okay. So in a nutshell, we can see the heart blocks. We can see the PR interval. By seeing the PR interval, we can summarize it. That is, if it is constant PR interval, it will be either first degree heart block or second degree type 2. If it is variable PR interval, it will be type 1 second degree or third degree heart block. So by looking this, we can diagnose the heart blocks. And at a glance, the heart blocks, that is the first degree, there is the prolongation of the PR interval. Second degree type 1, gradual prolongation followed by drop. Second degree is type 2, that is the PR interval is constant and one P wave is non-conducted. And twist one block is every alternate P wave is blocked. And the third degree heart block, lot of P waves, not associated with QRS complex, and less QRS complexes, rate is very low. So this is the at a glance of AV block. How we will manage the AV block patients, that is the, if it is in AV block patients, if the patient is complete heart block or advanced second degree heart block or Mobis type 2, or if it is evidenced by the intranodal block by EP study, the class 1 indication will be permanent pacemaker. And if it is the other causes like the infiltrative disease, if we think so, we will go for the history and other investigations. We will diagnose at first what is the reason, what is the cause of the block, and they will treat accordingly. And if it is the Mobis type 1 block, patient is symptomatic, Mobis type 1 but symptomatic patient, the class 2 indication is permanent pacemaker. If it is patient is not asymptomatic, patient not symptomatic, but we will diagnose the patient as a case of neuromuscular disease or other else. If it is so, class 1 indication is the permanent pacemaker. If it is not so, it will harm the patient, class 3. And in the patient of the marked first degree heart block, if the patient is symptomatic first degree heart block, then the permanent pacemaker will be class 2A indication. If it is asymptomatic, we will go for the again neuromuscular disease or other else. If it is yes, class 2B indication. If it is no, class 3 indication. And next step will be after the decision, after making the decision, we'll look for the next one is the ventricular arrhythmia. That is the class 1 indication. Then we'll go for the ventricular arrhythmia. We'll think for the ICD or CRT and so on. It will not discuss in this class. So the acute bradyarrhythmia algorithm, if it is acute bradyarrhythmia, we'll go for the vitals and history and physical examination immediately, and ECG if the patient is stable, assess the stability and reversible cause. If any reversible cause is present, we'll look for that and treat that. Patient is symptomatic moderately or severely, immediately we will go for the atropine. This is a class 2A indication. If it is no, evaluation and observe. If it is presence of any drug or drug toxicity, stop the drug and treat accordingly. And if it is not the drug, symptom persists, then go for the hemodynamic instability. If it is hemodynamically patient is unstable, go for the pacing algorithm. If it is no, cause is MI, we can give the aminophylline C2B, and if it is not MI, we can give beta agonist. If continuous symptom, pacemaker algorithm. So this is the basic life support ACLS algorithm. The patients, what I have told already, the appropriateness for the clinical condition, heart rate is typically less than 50. Identify, treat the underlying cause, maintain patient airway, ventilator. Common, this is common to all. This is common to all. No problem. Cardiac monitor, attach the cardiac monitor, IV access, all are the common to all the cardiac arrest patient. If persist bradycardia causes the hypotension, acute altered mental status, or signs of shock or ischemic insult, no, monitor the patient. If it is yes, we can go for the atropine first dose, repeated dose. If atropine ineffective, immediately go for the transcutaneous. If it is not available, dopamine, epinephrine we can give, and arrange for the expert consultation and transvenous pacing. Some drugs are for the bradyarrhythmia, the dopamine, atropine, isotretinoin, and epinephrine. And for the calcium channel blocker overdose, beta blocker overdose, glucagon can be given third degree. AV block with the acute MI can give aminophylline also. With the pacing algorithm, if the patient is hemodynamically unstable, critically ill due to bradycardia, transcutaneous. If it is no, permanent pacemaker is indicated, immediate transplant, implant the permanent pacemaker. If it is not so, prolonged temporary pacemaker, prolonged temporary pacemaker. We can keep it temporary transvenous, and also after that we can go shift to the permanent pacemaker. So let us see some example. This class is a virtual media, so it is very difficult to assess you. It should be fine if I ask somebody else and he will answer. That will be more better. But as it is not so, just I will give some example and show different type of bradyarrhythmias. and then I will conclude the class. So this is the one type of ECG, that is the every P wave is followed by QRS complex. Every P wave is followed by QRS complex. There is no abnormality of the rhythm. Rhythm is normal. Rate is a bit low. So it is a case of sinus bradycardia. This patient is the ECG is showing that there is rhythm strip of the lead 2 is showing that the rhythm is irregular. There is some blockage is there. There is no P wave. There is no P wave. Every P wave is followed by QRS complex. Here there is no P wave. Here there is no P wave. So it is a case of sinus nodal problem. So the previous P wave interval is double to that P wave interval. If it is so, it is the type 2 exit block. Type 2 exit block. The type 2 SA exit block. Okay. So next one is the in lead 2, where it is showing that the prolongation of the PR interval, and otherwise all the P wave is conducted. All the P wave is conducted. P wave followed by QRS. P wave followed by QRS. So only finding is the prolongation of the PR interval. So this is a type 1 first degree heart block. This is another ECG. The rhythm is irregular and some P wave is non-conducted. If rhythm is see, some P wave is non-conducted. Only one P is non-conducted, and the PR interval are somewhat normal, constant. So it is a type 2 second degree heart block. Only one P wave is non-conducted. This is another example. That is the in lead 2, the P wave, all the P waves are more, and PP intervals are regular, and the RR intervals are also looking regular. So P wave is more, R wave is less. There is no PR interval relationship. So it is a case of what it is.
আচ্ছা আগের ইসিজিটা একটু দেখান, আগের ইসিজি
কমপ্লিট হার্ট ব্লক।
এটা কি এটা আসলে এইভাবে
কমপ্লিট হার্ট ব্লক।
এখানে ভার্চুয়াল মিডিয়াতে আসলে জিজ্ঞাসা করতে গেলে সবাই মিলা এটা পোলিং সিস্টেম থাকা উচিত। পোলিং সিস্টেমটা করতে পারিনি। পোলিং সিস্টেমটা করতে পারলে আমি মনে করি ইট উইল বি বেটার। আচ্ছা আগের ইসিজিটা যেটা, যে আগের ইসিজিতে যেটা দিদি 1 P wave is so and the PR interval almost is regular. So this is the type 2 second degree heart block. Okay, and this is the complete heart block. This is ECG is showing that is the irregular rhythm. Occasionally P wave is seen, P wave is not seen. So it is one type of tachyarrhythmia. This is a sinus rhythm, PQRST. Again there is atrial arrhythmia, and sudden there is no wave. Long pause, sinus node dysfunction. This is a sinus node dysfunction disease, and this is the tachy followed by brady or pause. This is a tachybrady. Okay. Next one is the this is showing that is a lot of multiple P waves are there, and QRS complex is less. The P wave is followed by the PR interval. Next we will go for the PR interval. PR interval is constant. So PR interval constant. Multiple P wave is non-conductive. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 among the 4 P wave, 1 is conductive. So it is a 4:1 second degree AV block. Okay. Next one is what it is. The rhythm strip is showing P wave is followed by QRS. This P wave is not conducted. This P wave is conducted. This one is not. Every alternate P wave is non-conducted.
2:1.
2:1 AV block. 2:1 second degree AV block. Okay. So thank you all for your kind attention, and stay safe and stay home. Any question?
Last ECG তে P wave গুলো কি ব্রড ছিল?
হ্যাঁ, কম্পারেটিভলি খুব বেশি ব্রড নয়, কারণ হচ্ছে যে এটা তো অরিজিনটা কম্পারেটিভলি আর্লিয়ার, একটু আর্লিয়ার যদি হয় হিস্ট্রিতে যদি আসে
তো
তাহলে
বাইফিট মনে হচ্ছে স্যার, বাইফিট।
পি ওয়েভটা বাইফিট, পি ওয়েভের কথা বলছি, পি ওয়েভটা টু বাইফিট, reason possibly another is atrial enlargement, left atrial enlargement possibly here, V1 is also negative, so it might be a case of another issue, but the block is 2:1. P wave is bifid, this is not the diagnosis of the any block related problem, understand? So P wave is bifid, you should say P wave is the larger, so possibly reason is different, but the block is the every P wave is not contact. So any question?
How can we differentiate sinus arrhythmia from sinus arrest? Physiological sinus arrhythmia.
Sinus arrhythmia from sinus arrest.
Sinus
Sinus,
arrest.
sinus arrest and sinus arrest and sinus arrhythmia.
Arrhythmia.
Sinus arrhythmia is a physiological condition, respiratory variation. So it is not more than that enough. The pause or arrest will occur. The P wave is a standstill. The impulse will not generate for a long time, and it is not maintaining any relationship. Though it is not maintaining any relationship, but the pause should be long enough. The pause should be long enough. Pause should be long enough, and that pause will be definitely create some problems to the patient. And the sinus arrhythmia is a physiological condition. Not that much pause you will find. It is irregularities, but there is a not absence of P wave will not be there. In sinus pause, the absence of P wave will be there. Next, anything?
Sir, Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Salam.
Sir, how we will calculate atrial rate in case of second degree heart block?
In second degree heart block.
Atrial rate counting, sir.
Atrial
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Atrial rate count is similar like the ventricular rate and whatever it is, ventricular rate or atrial rate count is similar to all. I don't understand how will okay, I'm giving you this is the this is the P waves. These P waves are at the rate of how much you cannot determine. 1, 2, that is the 150, 100, 150 rate. P wave rate is 150. So how you will calculate? I don't understand what you want to say. Can you make me understand what you want to say?
মানে স্যার অ্যাকচুয়ালি স্যার পিপি যদি কনস্ট্যান্ট হয় তাহলে তো আমরা ইজিলি করতে পারি, কিন্তু পিপি যদি স্যার ভেরিয়েবল হয় তখন অ্যাট্রিয়াল রেট মানে কিভাবে কাউন্ট করব স্যার?
আচ্ছা, আমি কিন্তু এই লেকচারের সময় বলছি যে সেকেন্ড ডিগ্রি হার্ট ব্লকে ইউজুয়ালি পিপি ইন্টারভ্যাল ইজ কনস্ট্যান্ট, পিপি ইন্টারভ্যাল রেগুলার, ইউজুয়ালি পিপি ইন্টারভ্যালটা রেগুলার, পিআর ইন্টারভ্যাল কনস্ট্যান্ট কিন্তু পিপি ইন্টারভ্যাল ইউজুয়ালি রেগুলার।
জি স্যার,
ঠিক আছে। এবং ইররেগুলার যদি হয়, ইররেগুলার হার্ট রেট মেজার করার নিয়মটা কি? হাউ উইল ক্যালকুলেট দি ইররেগুলার রিদম?
আমরা ওটা 30টা ঘরের মধ্যে যে কয়টা আর আছে ওটাকে 10 দিয়ে গুণ করি স্যার।
ফাইন, দিস ইজ দি সিমিলার ওয়ে।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
ওয়ালাইকুম সালাম।
আমি ফরিদ বলছি। থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার ফর ইউর নাইস লেকচার।
লেকচার কি বোঝা গেছে কিনা? আমি যে এর আগে থেকে আগের পড়া ডেফিনেটলি সবার জানা, তো পোস্ট গ্রাজুয়েট স্টুডেন্ট
স্যার আচ্ছা
এমনি বোঝা গেছে লেকচার?
না বোঝা গেছে স্যার। there is a term intermittent AV block. What does it mean?
Intermittent AV block means patient will go for the in the sinus rhythm, and it occasionally it will occur 2:1 block or second degree type block. Occasionally it will occur. It will not diagnose in the ECG. ECG we can find out that is the sometime rhythm in initial in the rhythm strip you will found the sinus rhythm, sinus rate, sinus rhythm, all are okay, but in the later part of the rhythm strip you will find one of the P wave is non-conducting and the patient will give you the symptom. Then we will go for the next investigation, that is the Holter monitoring. It will show you the how it is intermittent. The intermittent AV block is not always occur. That is the when rate is improving, patient is improving, then the rate increase, then the P wave will not conduct to the ventricle. Atrium the impulse will not conduct to the ventricle. So it is the intermittent AV block. intermittently. It will occur intermittently for the different reason. It might be due to drug, it might be due to exercise, for the increased reason, rate related, it might be rate related.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your nice presentation.
Thank you, you're welcome.
Sir, can you share this presentation in our group, please, sir?
Sorry.
প্রেজেন্টেশনটা কি আমাদের এই গ্রুপে স্যার একটু শেয়ার করে দিতে পারবেন স্যার?
হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ গ্রুপে।
হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ
ও
গ্রুপে।
আচ্ছা, হ্যাঁ, ওকে ফাইন, এটা তো দেওয়া যাবে।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার,
থ্যাংক ইউ।
বাট আমি মনে করি ইফ ইট ইজ আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডেবল, শুধু তো মানে স্লাইড দেখা তো হবে না, বোঝাটা একটা বড় ব্যাপার। যদি বোঝা যায় তাইলে আমি মনে করি যে ঠিক আছে, কারণ সব তো আগের জানা জিনিস, নতুন কিছু আর কি আমি নতুন কিছু হয়তো অ্যাড করছি, তাই না? বাকি সবই তো আপনাদের আগের অনেক জানা, তো এগুলি তারপরে আমি মনে করি যে একটু আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডেবল হয়েছে তো, না?
স্যার। জি স্যার।
ঠিক আছে, ভালো থাকেন সবাই, সেফ থাকেন সবাই, সবার জন্য দোয়া করেন। খুব একটা ক্রিটিক্যাল